Thank you so much, Natalia, and hello, everyone. Welcome to today's roundtable. Really thrilled to discuss with you the future of AR. I think what I'd like to do is kind of begin with a little history. There's been a lot of talk nowadays about AR, VR, and mixed reality. And one of the things, that's really interesting, that these technologies are not absolutely new. These technologies, in a way, date back to 1968 when a gentleman by the name Ivan Sutherland, who was a Harvard professor and computer scientist, created kind of the first head-mounted display that he called the Sword of Damocles. And since then, both AR, VR, and mixed reality have come a long way with a growing list of use cases, everything from kind of military and NASA simulations to immersive customer experiences across a lot of different verticals, from retail and automotive to manufacturing, gaming, and more. So all in all, when we think about AR, VR, it is proven to kind of render tasks much easier and definitely more fun. So to better understand AR, VR, and the trends that are driving it, we at Zinnov have been tracking these technologies for over a decade. And I thought it would be good to share with you some insights from our latest kind of POV that we've done, where we studied a number of tech giants, large enterprises, investments, startup focus areas, and the GSI footprint as well. So the great news is that the AR, VR enthusiasts out there, these technologies have been really accelerated with the adoption and its adoption since COVID-19 first hit. Today, what we see is about 50% of enterprises are leveraging AR, VR for various use cases across product prototyping, employee training and development, remote expert assistance, complex manufacturing, and much more. What we're also witnessing is how the supply ecosystem is undergoing kind of a major transformation to meet this demand. From investing in everything from expert talent to launching dedicated COEs. And on the other hand, startups are proving to be a major player in this ecosystem. They're gaining a lot of traction among enterprises, and they are the preferred partner to work with. M&A investments are also growing. We've seen about $88 billion raised in just the last 2 years. And that's about a 17x growth in AR, VR startup investments since a decade ago. So I wanted to share a little bit, kind of dig deeper and share some takeaways from our study. It does show, that the AR, VR market will grow from an estimated $33 billion in 2021 to about close to $100 billion in just about 2 years, and almost $300 billion by 2025. This is really tremendous exponential growth. CAGR growth of about 74%. And the biggest contributor to this will be enterprise AR's adoption, alongside kind of training employees, product design, and prototyping. Now, when we look at this growth, what's driving it is not only just the enterprise AR, but also consumer AR, whereby enterprises, they are seeing measurable ROI gains through the use of AR in, say, for example, marketing, employee development, customer experiences. Think about kiosks, where they are replacing kind of the smartphone at the place of service. AR is driving the faster adoption, not only among these enterprises, but on the other hand, we have VR, which has its place there as well. But it is a greater consumer play that is driven by the fast adoption of VR hardware. Think of things like Oculus, HTC, Morpheus, Vive Pro, and so on. Now, for the enterprises, the adoption and interest come through the rising demand for remote training, In many cases, it had shown that it has lowered workplace injuries by 70%. Another example is on marketing ROIS, return on ad spend, that is, where they are realizing over 500% increase in customers' intent to purchase. Also, the enterprise adoption is driven by the rise of mobile VR and AR. A lot of active users, now to a tune of about 2 billion, and digital entertainment of headsets and processors that are used to produce AR, VR experiences have also gone mainstream, with expected 34 million plus headsets to be sold by 2024. So as I covered before, the growth in AR, VR that is driven by enterprises, and just like in the case of cloud and IoT and so on and other techs, the pace of adoption has been accelerated by the impact of COVID. And just in the next year alone, we will witness a 97% CAGR growth. And today, 87% of enterprises are exploring, piloting, or deploying AR, VR. Now, although the majority of them are still in the proof of concept stage, but with the expediency of 5G, we may witness faster adoptions. And we're lucky to have Leslie with us today from Nokia. She will help us get a better clarity and understanding of how crucial is 5G to the growth of AR, VR adoption. But enterprises are not the only ones driving the pace of AR, VR adoptions. Consumers, governments are as well, with the former set to witness a 48% CAGR growth over the next 4 years. This will be driven by immersive experiences, whereby 65% of consumers will be looking for more VR content. Think about sporting events, music events. And just in 2020 alone, there were over 60,000 such events. Gaming is another one that's seeing highest adoption, with a projected 200 million AR, VR users by 2025. The public sector is also playing a big role. These guys have been experimenting and driving many of the use cases in AR, VR since kind of the early 70s, and that continues to be the case today. They are steadily increasing investments in AR, VR for defense, military, public health and safety. For example, the military and law enforcement agencies are actively simulating deadly and dangerous scenarios leveraging AR, VR. And on the other hand, the departments and ministries of educations around the world are using AR, VR to elevate students' classroom experiences, which are pretty much needed during the pandemic. So what we also see is that the demand ecosystem is already stepping towards building their capabilities and expanding their portfolio offerings. They're doing this through investments and acquisitions. Just in 2020, the enterprise and consumer markets invested more than $1.3 billion in AR, VR, with $500 million in M&A deals. For example, Walmart acquired a company called Spatial Land. It's a VR startup for content creators, which turns 2D content into fully immersive experiences. Furthermore, what we see is enterprises are accelerating digital innovation by launching AR, VR centers. Ford is really good at this. They have what's called an immersive reality lab that enables engineers, researchers, and designers to fully experience concept before physical prototypes are even created. There are other ways that enterprises are building their capabilities to maximize performance, and that is done through partnerships, dedicated products, and as well as IPs. They're rolling out various mixed reality solutions to connect people and process. 3M has partnered, for example, with Pegatron. It's a Taiwanese electronic manufacturer that mainly develops computing, communication, and consumer electronics. And together, they're going to develop a new reference design with a folded optical lens. Now, you may be asking, what are these verticals that are seeing the most adoption? Well, the answer pretty much lies in automotive, gaming, retail, CPG. These are kind of the biggest adopter for AR, VR, and their major focus is on improving customer experiences. We look at kind of some of the use cases all around kind of car customization, VR traffic management to make driving in the city, for example, pleasurable and exciting. Immersive gaming rooms. We also see VR driving simulators that can show drivers how to enjoy their cars responsibly. On the retail side, which is a big one, and we're lucky also to have Alan with us to talk a little bit about some use cases there, is they're doing it through immersive marketing campaigns that can whet people's appetite for the product through VR work simulators to help employees avoid reluctance due to missing knowledge, as well as to avoid kind of the worst case scenarios that include injuries. VR mapping for sales and marketing, allowing users to freely configure their experiences at the application level and create a unique space for clients. Virtual shopping malls that would allow customers to make real purchases in virtual reality, whereby customers can test the use of selected products in an environment where they would really can try the product, use the product, and check their parameters and view them in the smallest details, thus helping them kind of make better decisions about their purchases. Now, in the previous slide, we mentioned that automotive, gaming, retail, and CPG as the biggest adopters. But when we dig a little bit deeper, what we see is the adoption across these verticals is on employee training, customer interaction, product development. They come up to be the most prominent use cases. And furthermore, we're seeing higher intensity among product development and design, predictive maintenance and safety, employee learning and training, and augmented customer experiences. And what enterprises are doing, they're already realizing good ROI on their AR, VR investments. So case in point, when you look at GE, they're seeing about 34% improvement on the technician's productivity when using Google Glasses, for example. BMW was able to shave off 12 months of vehicle build time by using AR goggles and AR applications. On the other hand, Lockheed Martin witnessed a 30 to 50% reduction in overall technician time on the floor when they were using the Scopes AR. Now, to provide you a little bit with more context and a clearer view, we created kind of three zones that comprise the innovators, followers, and laggards. This is something that we do across not only the AR, VR landscape, we do it across AI, ML, we do it across cloud, and the kind of other technologies that we consult with clients on. And the idea behind it is to allow you to better understand the AR, VR adoption across various organizations. So if you look at from left to right, at the x-axis, the intensity of this company's adoption of AR, VR grows from low to high. For example, those that are innovators, like the Daimlers and Volkswagen and Walmart, tend to have champions in their leadership teams at the C levels. They also have invested in things like innovation centers. They assign dedicated talent to their AR, VR labs. They developed a multitude of various use cases. And they're also entered in many different partnerships that are focused specifically on the AR, VR. Now, given all the insight that we discussed, it's no wonder that the markets have witnessed a 4x growth in the number of AR, VR startups. And just in the past decade, the startup funding has grown by a whopping 17x. Now, this showcases the need for AR, VR and the increasing trust from investors. When we look down further, there are now over 10 AR, VR startups with more than $1 billion in valuation. And when it comes to the leading regions, more than 50% of the startups are incepted here in the US, while 30% are in Europe. And just in the last few years, more than 200 startups have made strategic acquisitions in order to drive growth, while more than 300 others were acquired. And when we look at the investments, about 10% of AR/VR startups have raised more than $5 million in funding. Healthcare and B2C are the ones that are taking the highest amounts when it comes to investments, about 1.3 billion and 877 million respectively. Now, this is driven by about $1 billion in VR health, where we see use cases where caring clinicians and advanced technologies come together kind of to help the patients feel their best. From teaching communication skills to people with autism, to detecting vision impairment, to preparing and conducting surgeries. And when we look at the B2C, some examples, and one that's really prominent, is by connecting fitness equipment. This segment alone accounts for about 2/3 of the $877 million in investments. So think about the Pelotons and the companies like such. Now, this is driving tech providers to invest heavily in AR/VR research. For example, Facebook's total workforce, that's about 10,000 employees, are currently working in the Facebook Reality AR/VR lab. Another example is in upskilling talent, where Intel has partnered with TU Dublin to develop employee-based VR training. Google has been leading when it comes to engagements across the ecosystem. They have awarded, for example, 130,000 scholarships to Indian developers and students to upskill them, both in immersion tech, which includes also AR/VR. And I know Leslie will be excited about this, as the future of AR/VR is highly dependent on the wider 5G adoption. In this scenario, we see companies like Qualcomm and Nokia to be leading the charge by infusing 5G and AI innovations with extended reality tech platforms. And this is done across mobile applications. Then, when we look at ROI and to maximize ROI, what we've been witnessing is that the tech giants' strategies are around leveraging the growing adoption of AR/VR amongst consumers. So to execute on this, Apple is planning to launch an AR/VR smart glasses in 2022. These glasses use Sony micro LED projection optics, haptics, and micro gestures. Facebook is, on the other hand, is solidifying its AR advertising via Oculus. They have, for example, partnered with Luxottica, which is the Italian glasses company that owns Ray-Ban, to launch AR glasses with neural wristbands for neural sensing. The hyperscalers, the Microsofts, the AWS, and Googles, and so on, they're also strengthening their capabilities. Google is investing in Mojo Vision. It's a company that makes AR contact lenses. They're also investing in Magic Leap, which builds mixed reality headsets that compete with the likes of HoloLens 2. And not to be outdone, Microsoft has partnered with Improbable to build VR national security capabilities, and they recently acquired Nuance, an AI leader in healthcare, for close to about $20 billion. Now, to complete the ecosystem, GSI have to come to play. And on the GSI side, they've been building their capabilities across different themes. These are like really key themes. And in order for them to get ahead of the demand that's coming, they have selectively been investing in many different kind of ventures and product development and talent involvement. So for example, Accenture acquired Macavision to enhance its AR, VR capabilities. On the other hand, Tata, they collaborated with Unity Technologies to launch mixed reality COEs. DXC is deploying advanced augmented virtual and mixed reality technologies for enterprises. And Capgemini's Sogeti has partnered with Diota to take its AR/VR solution to market. And not to be outdone, Infosys opened multiple design studios in London, LA, Berlin, Melbourne, and this is to develop, co-develop solutions on AR/VR with their clients. Now the question is, who is leading the charge when it comes to these GSIs? Well, it's both Accenture and TSS who emerge as the dominant GSIs. And they're doing this with robust mixed reality capabilities. And the reasons why is because they've been investing heavily on talent with high focus on employee reskilling and training, as well as hiring new talent that includes AR/VR leaders. They are setting up COEs and research hubs to develop new cases and new use cases and new piloting programs. They are building vertical product IPs, and not just general ones, but dedicated product IPs that are divided and split by industry, as well as use case specific solutions. On the investment side and acquisition, they have a high focus on startup acquisitions to expand their AR/VR capabilities, as well as geographies. They are launching core innovation hubs, partnerships by setting up joint COEs with industry partners. And finally, they are investing heavily on market visibility programs. They're doing a lot of things with their partners, from launching various reports and doing a lot of events, from white papers, blogs, webinars, and roundtables like what we're doing right now. So thank you so much for joining. Really hope that this information has been, and this insight have been very useful for you. So back to you, Natalia and team.